Hi, it's time for another math easy solution. Today we're going to discuss a little bit of politics. Basically go over the Electoral College and then compare it with the popular vote, because there's some pretty fierce debate going online and in the US media about the differences between the two, and there's a lot of protesters that prefer the popular vote because of their side losing the election. And also go over some of the 2016 election results in the US. And yeah, basically I have some pretty interesting data in this, so yeah, hopefully follow through. It's going to be a pretty extensive but very enlightening video. Anyway, so the United States Electoral College is the body that elects the president and vice president of the United States every 4 years. And what's interesting is that citizens don't actually directly elect the president or vice president. Instead, they choose electors who pledge beforehand to vote for the candidate who wins in their party. There are, in fact, very few occasions in which electors have voted contrary to a pledge. So even though you voted for your president, you're not actually voting for that person. You're voting for someone on your behalf that that's pledged to vote for that president, but he may actually not, he or she may not actually vote for him, which is a bit strange. And basically the Electoral College will vote on December 19th, 2016 of this year. Yeah, I believe there's like 170 cases where they haven't voted. I think about 70 was because that the president died just before the vote, and some other reasons I'm not sure. Yeah, so it's a bit strange to have this little clause in there. So anyways, there are currently 538 electors, 435 representatives for the House of Representatives, and 100 senators for the Senate, and 3 additional electors for the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., where the White House is in, so because it's not technically a state. Yeah, so add all these up, you get 538, and all states except Maine and Nebraska have chosen electors on a winner-take-all basis since the 1800s. So basically, in every state except these two, what happens is if you vote, the popular vote will get all of the electoral votes. Yeah, but in this case, Maine and Nebraska use the congressional district method, selecting one elector within each congressional district by popular vote, and selecting the remaining 2 electors by a statewide popular vote. So in specific districts in those 2 states, there's basically, the idea is 2 popular votes. So it's like a state within a state, kind of. So that's one way. Yeah, but everyone else, just every other state just does it winner take all. Now, the candidate who receives an absolute majority of electoral votes, currently 270, well, 270 times 2, you get 540. Yeah, which means, yeah, so then the other person can only get 268. So this is the absolute majority. So you need at least this for the office of president or vice president, yeah, and it's elected to that office. Now, according to the 12th Amendment to the Constitution, if no candidate receives a majority for president, then the House of Representatives will select the president. So if they don't get 270, if you have a third party that's strong, etc., then each state delegation, so the House of Representatives will select the president, and each state delegation, instead of each representative, has only 1 vote. So basically every state has 1 vote, regardless of size, population, or electoral votes, how much they have. And again, the electoral votes are split up mainly by population. I'm not sure by what else they consider, but it's mainly population. So if no candidate receives a majority for vice president, then the Senate will select the vice president. So basically the Senate will choose the vice president, and then the House of Representatives will choose the president, which is strange because if one of them chooses, let's say, a president, then the other one, shouldn't they pick the person as vice president? So anyways, I'm not sure about that. It's a bit confusing, but regardless, this is just one of the fringe aspects which never really happens. I'm not even sure if it has happened. And in this case, each senator has a vote, so there's 100 senators, each one gets a vote. and I'm not sure what happens if there's a split between that, or why there would even be a split. Anyways, so yeah, so now let's look at the popular vote. Well, there's not much you need to know about this besides it's quite simply the sum of all votes cast in every state and in District of Columbia, or DC, because that's not technically a state. So now the results that I'm going to show are accurate as of November 16th. It's a couple days ago while I was putting all this data together, and the results are only projections as the final results are not fully in yet. Yeah, so that's this table right here. Yeah, here I forgot to put the source. So the source I'm getting this data from was on November 16th from uselectionatlas.org. I found that to be the easiest one to get all this data from for these results right here. And as you can see, Trump is projected to win 306 electoral votes, while Hillary Clinton is projected to win 232. There's about 131 million total votes. So yeah, much less than the actual possible votes. I'm not sure how much that is. But regardless, so but even though Trump has won, or has won the Electoral College, if you look at the total votes, Hillary Clinton has actually just over 1 million more votes as of Wednesday. And then Gary Johnson, the Libertarian, he's 4 million. As you can see here, other candidates, including Jill Stein, Green Party, and everybody else, is about 2.9 million. And now the vote differential, Clinton minus Trump, because it's more votes, is about 1.2 million difference. So this is why there's a big debate and a lot of protesters going about, because there's more votes for Hillary even though Trump wins the presidential election. So yeah, so before I get further, one thing people need to realize is all the candidates know that you need to win Electoral College, so their campaign strategy is not going to be based on popular vote. So that's why there is possibilities of popular vote going the other way as opposed to the winner of the election. So anyways, I'll get to that later in the summary at the end of this video. And now I want to go over basically how the graphs look like based on state. So Trump is the Republican candidate, Hillary is the Democrat nominee or the candidate. So what we have right here is this source I'm getting it from 270towin.com. Found it to be just the easiest to see graph, and this shows the red is all the ones that are Republican, and then the Republican one, and then the blue is all those states that are Democrat one. As you can see, there's more red in here, and that's because a lot of these smaller states they voted for Republican. But if you look at like giant states like California with 55 electoral votes and New York with 29, yeah, basically these are like one of the highest populations, and those voted for Hillary in and I'll show you later, in a vast difference than those voted for Trump. And that's actually explains why there's a difference here of more votes for Clinton than Trump, even though he won in this. Light red is Michigan. This one, the results haven't fully come in, but it's projected that these 16 electoral votes will go to Trump, which will get to 306. Right now he's at 290, and there's at 16. And this half is 270. So you just need to get more than 270 to win. Or 270 and more. And now these states in here, they're a bit too small to put the text in, so the graph has them over here. DC with 3, Maine with 11, etc. There's Hawaii put in there, and also Alaska. So, and I'll show you this data that I'm getting from, it's actually from my Excel sheet here, that I put all of them from this US Elections Atlas. I'll put in a giant Excel sheet like this, and I'll put a link to this to download so you can view it for yourself. And here's that other graph, just summary of each of the total votes of the major candidates. And also this is state by state. So let's go over here, and then you can download that data if you want to play around with it, which is pretty cool. So here I've summed up all the states, and then you have all the electoral votes, And then as well, I have it right here. This is the this is the total number of votes right here that was counted, not necessarily cast, because there's some absentee voters, etc. But these are the total counted. As you can see, California has the biggest voting population here, or the most votes in there. I'm pretty sure it's the highest population as well, and hence the most electoral votes, 55. And so basically the ones on the right here, these are the ones Clinton won, these are the ones Trump won, and no other party won any other votes. So as you can see, there's a 55, there's 10 million, and then Clinton, she had 6.6 million of those votes, Trump had 3.5, Johnson 300,000, other 200,000. So what I've done is I tabulated all of these together, and as well as this total, and this pretty cool little graph inside the column, which is pretty cool. You can see the data right away. So when you do this all, what you'll notice is then also if you look at the difference, Clinton minus Trump here, you'll see that basically this blue, these are all the difference. Whenever it's to the right, that means Clinton had more votes in that state. So if you look at all of the states, there's more states with red, meaning Trump had more votes, or he won those, won that state's electoral votes. And then, but then when you look at California as well as New York, so California, New York, and also to a lesser degree, this one is Illinois, this is 20. So these three large population states, you'll see that Clinton won by a giant margin, 3 million, 1.5 million. This is 900,000. And the state that Trump won by the largest margin, you'll see that's Texas at 38 electoral votes. But look at the difference in the votes. This is 4.6 to 3.8. So this is this is 800,000 more votes than Clinton. So that is the biggest difference, but it's so much smaller than these other three states, and that's why this scale of this graph is skewed way far like this, simply because of California there. So what this means is that three states, or namely just even the top two in New York and California, skews the popular vote so far in Hillary's favor, regardless of whether Trump wins, even if he wins every other state. And now the total difference you'll see is only 1.2 million difference, even though you'll have 3.08 million there. So that's a pretty cool graph you can play around with. And now what I want to look at is also contributions to all candidates. These are all the money they received, their donations or whatnot. And this is from the Federal Election, I think this is Federal Election Commission, FEC, website, fec.gov. And this is from that link. I'll put that here. You can also download these exact notes in the link below. You can play around with that. And but I want to make a note. I didn't download the total contribution data to Excel because the file was over 1 gigabyte, and I couldn't open the whole thing. So when I opened Excel, I maxed out at over 100,000 rows. Assumed that there were millions more rows, and yeah, I would need some sort of better spreadsheet to do all this. Thus, I've taken the summary data directly from their website. Yeah, and here I'll just go to the website. So this is that website, that link. What you'll see is it shows the total contributions to each candidate. You'll see that there's a $1.3 billion raised by the sum of all the candidates. You'll see Democrats had 700 million, Republicans 500 million, and then Clinton had the highest contributions at just about 500 million, and Trump's about half at 247. And Sanders is pretty interesting. Bernie Sanders is almost caught up to Trump, even though he wasn't the Democrat nominee. And here it shows you by size. So you see California, $137 million raised from there. This one's the New York. I think this is a bit off. This is actually the highest one. When you click into it, I'll explain that later. So Florida, 52. This one's 69, and these other smaller ones. You have this one. This is about $700,000 raised. So what's interesting is if you look at, let's say, smaller ones like this, if I just click it, you'll see that yeah, Democrats right here, I mean, Republicans raised more money, 400,000, 700,000. Trump raised 200,000, and Clinton 194,000. This is, and then Cruz 100,000 here, because there was a lot more. See all these R's. There was a lot more Republican nominees. But what's interesting is, yeah, Trump has a more. He won this state, but he has a more contributors there. Which is that's actually the first state I found that it was actually Trump had more. If you look at any other state, you'll see that Clinton raised more than Trump and pretty much any other candidate. So besides that one state, as well as many others, as well as possibly others, I haven't checked, I haven't actually seen. You'll notice that Clinton raised more money in pretty much every state. Even if you go to Alaska, where Trump won, Clinton and Sanders almost doubled Trump's the total money he raised right there. Even Democrats raised more money in Alaska, but even though Republicans won, which is quite interesting. So there's more people are paying money to the Clinton or the Democrat campaign than Republicans. And yeah, so now if you look at the big states like California, the high population, this is where things get very interesting right here. So Clinton has $83 million raised from California, Trump's $9 million. So basically there was no one, yeah, and even Sanders has more than Trump right there, almost, yeah, more than double. So basically more people are contributing in California to Clinton's campaign, and it seems like Trump doesn't even bother trying to get votes there because, and I'll explain later, California has been historically a Democrat for the recent times. Now, if New York's 82, it's actually higher. If you click it, it's 153 million. And now, if you notice here, Clinton raised $129 million. Trump's only $4 million, and then Sanders double that to 8. Even the Republicans is just 15. So basically, Clinton raised more money than every single other candidate, as well as the Republicans. Even if you include this number too, which is like double the sum, you'll still raised more money, which is very fascinating. So anyway, so that's the data I got. I just put that manually because when you download the data from here in the summary, export contributor data, it's a giant file. So let's go back to here. So what I've done is contributions here by top 4 states, as well as all the states. Now, actually, another thing I want to go over quickly is another cool feature of the Federal Election Commission, or FEC website, is their new beta site, https or just beta.fec.gov. I highly recommend you check it out. Here's a brief preview of it. If you go to it and then sort through the data disbursements, just click over here in advanced disbursements. You can sort out stuff by state, by other stuff, advertising purpose, change it, how the money is being arrived in there, and then also filter it by the date, by different years. You'll see here, according to this one, in terms of advertising, Trump spent $15 million. That's the highest in terms of advertising, and this was on displaced media. But then, this is pretty interesting. This is this is for American media and advocacy. Advocacy group right there. So basically, this is the highest contribution he made for advertising for media company. But now, if you look at Hillary's, Hillary has actually one of the highest ones. These are, and I'll go over that data as well. This is the contributor data. Actually, never mind. This is the spending data. This is how much money they spend. And then Hillary's main, or I'm thinking probably only one, is used GMMB, which is a data analysis company and marketing, etc. And as you can see, she spent 14 million, 14, 13, 12, 10 to her in different days throughout the year, as well as here. And I'll go over that table as well. So basically, you can play around with this. This is all that giant data I was talking about. This is actually disbursements. I have the disbursements data in Excel, the entire file. But if you look at contributions, this should be a bit easier. You could see who contributed to her and when. This is receipts. Yeah, I believe if you want to go see who paid to which campaign, you go to receipts right here. I think it's an individual contributions or contributions from other committees. What you can do is just click all receipts. See if they show all the data right here and amount total. So this was 616. This is Statware and other firms. Well, this is $50 million donation. Well, this is another 26 to Bernie 2016 Hillary Victory Fund, and you can click who's paying these at 19 million. This is receipt information. So anyway, this is the Hillary for America. I think that's like a PAC or a political action committee. It's just this is a lot of money coming into there. Then you see Trump's Make America Great Again campaign, 17 million. There's just twice for that. Let's look at individual contributions. Actually, it's pretty interesting. Yeah, so going back here, click individual contributions as opposed to committees or other stuff like that. And let's look at here. This is from 2015 to 2016. Okay, so these are donations for Congress and Senate stuff. So basically there's a lot of money. These are in the millions of dollars, tens of millions. And this one here, Hillary for America, that is the receipt contributor name. Yeah, it was interesting. Let's just scroll more. You can see other people like here. This is Thomas Steyer, Climate Action Committee, paying $6 million. There's the infamous or famous George Soros, who's been in the news many times. Let me just exit this right here. So let's go back to that. And you could see he's paid $6 million to Priorities USA Action. I think there's another committee. This is the Soros Fund Management. So we have here Super PAC. Yeah. So anyways, I'm not going to go into details of that. Just to know, these are the kind of people spending lots of money in politics. So and there's Michael Bloomberg as well. And yeah, there's just a lot of money and a lot of special interest in politics. This is a great site to go through all that. You can even see small donations. See the smallest. So this is a debt or something like that. Anyways, I'm not going to waste more time on that. Let's go back to here. So what we have here, contributions by top 4 states. So I went over just the top 4, put them together. And you'll see Democrat had 700 million, Republican 500 million. Now if you look at Libertarian, 11, Green Party 3, and then Independent is $1 million. And now when you look at the top 4 states, in New York right here, it's $137 million raised for Democrat, Republican 15 million, California 103, 32 million. Texas right here, this is slightly, yes, Republican had more in Florida and Texas, which they won, and Florida is a swing state, which they barely won, but still slightly more donations in the Republicans. So the major states that Republicans won, the amount of contributor money to them or donations to them was not much more than the other ones, than the Democrat. But then, as you can see here, there's a giant drop off here. And this further explains why there's just so many more votes for New York, California going to Democrat, and hence skewing the popular vote. So let's look at contributions by candidates opposed to just the party. As you can see here, so now when you look at by party, because this is Republicans had a lot of nominees, that's why it's pretty close to Democrat. Well, it's not that close, but it's relatively close, $200 million-ish dollars, or 180 million. Close. And now if you look at Clinton, just all of the candidates that were involved, there is so the Republican, the lowest one is at 400,000. That's written down. There's Independent McCullen, Jill Stein, Green Party, and Gary Johnson, Libertarian, 11 million. This is 3. So, and then there's these other lesser known Democrats, Lessig and Webb. So there's basically a lot of Republican nominees and very few Democrat nominees. And now if you look at Hillary Clinton's $497 million, she basically got most of the Democrat funding, and then Bernie Sanders is the rest of the 228. And the most for Republican was Donald Trump at 247. So this is slightly more than half, slightly more than half that Clinton raised, and Sanders almost almost raised as much as Trump without even being the nominee for Democrats. And now if you look at New York, 129 million to 4 to 8 right there for Sanders. But the main two, these two that were the only ones like had a chance of winning. And now look at the difference in New York and California right here. No, New York and as well California 83 to 9, and then Texas right here when you compare it to Trump's. So even though Trump won Texas and Florida, there's way more. This is about double, and this is about 10 times. This is even more than that. This is about, I think this is about, how much is that? Almost 20 times, or actually, I mean, this is about 30 times more money collected in New York for Hillary Clinton than for Donald Trump. This is about 10 times. It's about double right there, even though he won these two states, which is quite fascinating. And I also wanted to point out again, Sanders has raised almost as much money as Trump without even being the Democrat nominee. So there's a lot of money flowing to the Democrats. And now Clinton's contributions from New York and California are nearly the total amount of contributions that Trump received from all the states. So if you look at here, New York's 129, that's like half, yeah, that's more than half of Trump's entire money he raised, which is quite interesting. So this is all the contributions from, yeah, this is all the states right here, all other states, and this is just New York and California. It's 213 million. So in these two states alone, Clinton raised almost as much as Trump did for all of these states. And here I've copied that and pasted that exact graph right here. This should be a bit bigger. This is New York's, because this one says 80 something million, but it's actually, yeah, this one says 82, but as when you click inside again, as I showed, it's actually 153. So it's supposed to be bigger. Just click already. Okay, yeah, so it should be 153 as opposed to 82. So that's a typo that the FEC has made. Now I'll write that again. Note that New York data, the New York data should be represented larger in the map below since it had the largest dollar amount of contributions. I believe the Federal Election Commission, FEC, just made a mistake. So it should be the biggest one, bigger than California. And Clinton received more donations from nearly every state. May I as well, actually I'll erase this because I found that one right here. From nearly every state. So this is a pretty interesting note. So even the ones that Trump won, like Alaska, she still received more contributions from nearly every state. So I think the only one I found was this one so far that Trump had slightly more. And now when we look at campaign spending, and again the source is here, I've downloaded that in the expenditure file here. Let's go to here, and this is for each state where they're spending their money, as yeah, for each candidate in each state, and I have these all across, and then the grand total, and then so the total money they spend is 1.25 billion, and also combine these into the total summations like this, and I put them over here. So that's spending data, and the ones data I've showed you before was contribution data, how much money they raised, and this is how much money they spent. So when we go to here, I also have another file, expendituredata.xl. I'll put a link to download this as well, and this shows every single contribution. I've sorted this out. There's about 25,000 rows of every single type of spending they've done, including paying for Uber, paying for taxi, paying for food that's business related, etc. And here is this is the interesting part as well. If you look at expenditure data, where they're spending their money in this, I've sorted this out by all the stuff, anything above $100,000. I've sorted it out. It just keeps going on. So there's so much money in here. This is that GMMB company that Clinton paid for that runs here. If you go to just Google GMBB or GMMB, so advertising, political consulting, advocacy website. So these guys, Clinton paid a lot of money to. Yeah, and then, as you can see, if you load it up, you'll see that they do political campaigns, marketing, and other stuff. So this could also connect to TV, online, and I believe if you wait, there should be an image of Hillary Clinton. Yeah, there she is. So Hillary and Obama, I would assume Obama's as well, they did their campaign, or his campaign as well, I'm not 100% sure. Anyways, going back to here, you'll see they spent a lot of money to that group, and this is multiple days, and you see Trump's went with American Media and Advocacy Group, and he's went with that as well in recent times. So this is the dates, this September 30th. But he also tried different stuff as well. This is all what kind of types they did, media buys. He also did this Gilles Parexel, and as well as Cambridge Analytica and James and Associates. So he's tried a lot of different ones, and then Sanders used Old Town Media. So most of the money goes into these big giant marketing companies. And also, I think I should have a. Yeah, I think I have it here, and also pivot table. If you learn more about pivot tables, you can learn more by watching my earlier video. Put that in the link below. I've sorted out all these together, and as you could see right here, and this is based on any of these companies with over $10 million spending. I don't know why it's not showing these right here. But if you look at here, this GMMB, Clinton spent $236 million. So basically that company made $250 million during this election campaign cycle. And then Old Town Media, this was from Sanders. That company's made $83 million. And as you can see, Trump's has used this other Gilles Parexel. He's used multiple different ones, paid $58 million, $35. So all these companies making a lot of money. So in just marketing, and this is American Express. So even American Express makes, so Trump used American Express a lot. You'll see that he spent $12 million on his American Express, which is quite interesting. So they might have worked together, I'm not sure. But regardless, this is what I want you to take note is there was a lot of money spent in big marketing, and Hillary focused mostly on this one and spent the most, $236 million. Trump spent a lot, but on various different amounts, and then Sanders was spending a lot for a candidate as well that didn't become the nominee for the Democrat Party. So let's go further into campaign spending. So I combined the campaign spending and contributions together and see the difference. You'll see here that this is the difference between the two for each candidate. Hillary still has $52 million on the table. Trump is in debt $3 million, or lost some money. Marco Rubio is interesting. He actually $4 million negative right there. He raised a lot of money, but he spent more money than he raised. And yeah, so this is pretty interesting graph. So again, the money, a lot of that money goes to Clinton. And note that the surplus campaign money can't be used for personal use, but can be used as charitable or political donations and other stuff like that. I believe there's strict rules on that. So now I just want to go over a summary. Trump is projected to win 306 electoral votes to Clinton's 232. Clinton is leading Trump in the popular vote by over 1.2 million votes. Again, this is as of Wednesday, November 16th. And the popular vote is heavily skewed by California and New York, in which Clinton has a combined 4.5 million votes right there. And also New York has voted Democrat for the last 8 election cycles, not years. Yeah, I just fix that typo. So for the last 8 elections, New York has voted a Democrat, and including this year. And the source is 270 to win, states/New York. And California has voted Democrat for the last 7 elections. So basically, California, New York, always voting Democrat recently. And so basically, Republican strategy has mainly to avoid trying to win over New York or California, which explains why the voting differential is so high, as well as all the contributing donation money is going strictly to Democrat. Those are high population areas where pretty much only people campaigning would be the Democrats, and even then they already have that vote if you look at strictly statistics. So that explains why the popular vote shouldn't be as trusted. Well, you shouldn't take it too seriously when the race is not to win it, but to win electoral college votes. So even though Texas has been won by Republicans, another part, even though Republicans has won Texas for the last 10 elections, so even more lopsided than New York and California, which is interesting, and that's including this year, the voting differential is only 800,000 in favor of Republicans. So even in the states that, even in Texas, where it's mainly Republican, where mainly Republicans win, they're still not voting as much towards Republicans as New York, California vote for Democrats, which is quite interesting as well. And now, if the presidential office is won by the popular vote instead of the Electoral College, expect nearly all campaigning strategy for every party to be strictly targeting mainly the largest population states, and that includes, well, California, Texas, New York, and Florida. And the link to these populations here I got, this is as of 2013 census, this is from enchantedlearning.com. From that website. So this is that data. If you see it, and basically if you're going for the popular vote, you're going to target large cities, and that's basically it. That's be the main strategy. But so the idea of the Electoral College is meant to give the entirety of America balanced input into the general election. So here's my take. That was a summary of basically Electoral College and popular vote. So my take is the Electoral College and popular vote both have their own merits and downfalls. The popular vote represents the entire population better, but gets skewed too strongly to the highest population states. So again, in terms of entire population, because you are getting an entire population vote. The Electoral College has a better balance for all the states, but in states that predominantly vote one party, voting has less of an impact. So for example, California, there's 3 million extra votes for Democrats, so that means they didn't actually need all those votes. So a lot of those votes, they have less of an impact as if compared to if those same 3 million people lived into a different state like Texas. So if you just move those people around to the other places, then they're gonna win other states. So basically, there's less impact. Each person's vote has less impact in states that predominantly vote one party. A better system is to incorporate both a popular vote and electoral college system. This could be fixed by splitting the presidential power by a combination of electoral and popular vote. I haven't thought this through too much, but I believe there could be a way to split the presidential power, so it's not a winner-takes-all scenario. Because even when it's the closest of margins in terms of electoral college and popular vote, it's basically, it means why should all the power go to one party that wins very slightly? So it's disproportionate amount of power going to the party that wins, when instead there could be a way for splitting the presidential power proportionally based on the votes in electoral college. So basically, I haven't gone through it too much, just wanted to throw out some ideas. And again, the main goal would be to ensure that all votes have similar impact, yet while still maintaining balance for all the states. Because the U.S. is a giant population, so you can't just use New York and California as the main voting block, or having them get too much power on it. Because if they do, well, why don't they just separate into their own countries? Which I think that might actually be a pretty interesting concept. So anyways, as pertains to strictly the voting system, a better system would be a ranked system. I think the Green Party Jill Stein brought this up. And this way you rank the candidates in your preferred order. This will reduce the spoiler effect, and the spoiler effect is basically when voting for a third party or a non-major party, this positively benefits the candidate you like the least, especially in swing states. So to avoid this, and that's why a lot of people avoid voting for a third party, even though if their values match better with that third party. And so this will also, so the benefit of this, if you use a ranked system, is this will result in more interest in non-major parties. Yeah, so basically, instead of picking which candidate you like, you put a list of all the candidates in the order you want them. And then basically, the results of the ranked system could be set up in a number of ways. One way is to give a higher worth for first place votes. I think this is how the NBA, or the National Basketball League, does it for their MVP voting. I think they have like top 5, and then first place gets a lot of worth, and then second place gets less points, etc. and then again incrementally lower for other votes. Another method would be to count up. This would be the easiest to basically the least difference between the current system, but this way, yeah, people wouldn't be worried too much about the spoiler effect. So another method would be simply to count up all the first place votes and then use the second place votes as the tiebreaker, and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's pretty much it for today. And if you have any other comments or better ways of doing the voting system, because I believe the voting system is needs to be changed, it's outdated, as well as the political system needs to be changed in a way that affects, well, that gets more results done quicker, as opposed to voting a party, a giant party that has many different concepts that you may or may not like, or the country may or may not like. And then, as opposed to looking at which one is the most inclined towards you, look at specific issues. Yeah, for example, you might like one party for their economic stance, but you like another party for their healthcare stance or social issues. So instead of that, they should actually split those up. So the issue should be the stuff you should be voting for, instead of the actual person or the party. So that would be, yeah, so that's just one thing thrown out there. So an issue-based political system, I think, would be just quicker to get things done that everybody wants, as opposed to finding, or as opposed to picking a candidate that has several things you like, but a lot of things you don't, and then just living with the stuff you don't, which just doesn't make any sense. Anyways, that's all for today. If you'll learn from this very interesting video on the U.S. election results and the Electoral College versus popular vote. Anyways, I'll put the links to all this in the video link below, also the Excel sheet and the websites, and you can download them, as well as these exact notes, and play around with them. And anyways, let me know what you think, and if you have any better systems than the current one. Anyways, that's all for today. Hopefully you'll learn, like always. Yeah, you can download these notes. And anyway, stay tuned for another math easy solution.